Hello, welcome. I hope you're doing well. It's an early Saturday morning. The sun is shining. It's kind of cold outside. I think the temperatures were down at freezing last night, which, well, I mean, it is April, but I am nice and toasty inside. And I thought that today I would talk about the books that I read last year. I was not sure if I wanted to make this video, one, because we are in the very end of April and this will be going up in the beginning of May, and so it's quite late to be talking about the books I read in 2024 since we're like almost halfway in 2025, but whatever. I don't know, I feel like I should talk about these books because although you will be familiar with like half of them I haven't talked about yet. So my plan is I'm gonna go through all of the books, but all of the books that I read while I was still making videos, I'm not gonna go into any details about really, because I went through, I think, pretty much all of them to some degree in some video last year. I'm gonna go through them quickly just as a kind of reminder and a refresher, and if any of you are then interested in any of the thoughts or opinions I had on these books, then I'm going to leave a playlist with all the videos that I made last year in the description so you can browse through whatever it is that piques your interest. And then when we get to the books that I read while I was not making videos last year, I'll go into a little bit more detail on what I thought about the book. So that's the plan, to go through all of the books, but kind of be very light on most of the details of the books that I've already shown on this channel before, and then save some time for the books that I haven't talked about yet on this channel. I don't think I have any more of an introduction other than I guess I can mention that I'm going to be making one more 2024 kind of reflection video, one more video about the books in 2024. It's going to be a favorites video. So I'm going to bring, I think, 8, 9, or 10 of these books back for another video about the books that I liked the most last year, but that's it for 2024 videos, I think. We'll see if I have more to say when I finish these two videos, but for now, that's the plan. So today we're going to go through all of the books that I read last year, and then the next video is going to be the books that I liked the most last year. And then I think we're going to head back into 2025. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the books that I read last year. Alright, the first 3 books that I read last year, I read for a video. I'll link it. And of course, like I said, you'll find all of my videos from last year in a playlist in the description. But I'm going to link specifically like reading vlogs or wrap-ups because I talk so much more about these books there. So I read first Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Maybe I should hold the books like this. There's too many books to be having them on the floor because there's no space, and I can't have them on my lap because again there's too many, so I have to work with the table that I have beside my chair, but that makes it really awkward. Like, it's an awkward position. So I'm just, again, I'm so sorry for the awkwardness of me filming because I'm back at the beginning. I haven't done this in so long. Okay, first I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Then I read One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn. And then I read Paulo Coelho's The Devil and Miss Prym. Wow, I put those books in front of my face. That's nice. These 3 books. Oh, wait. These 3 books. So yeah, I read these for a reading vlog, and I go into detail about my thoughts on these 3 books there. I had a pretty good time with all of them. Alright. I don't know what to do with these books now. I did not plan this properly. Okay, we're just gonna... Okay. Next, I read Razorblade Tears by Cosby. Razorblade Tears. This author, actually, I'm just gonna make a note here. He's kind of taking off in Norway. Like, there are Norwegian translations for his books in the bookstores, which you only see for really, like, books that they expect to sell a lot of, books that are popular. So, that's exciting. I haven't read any more from him, yet. I want to. The more time that goes by, the less I know whether, because I know that I liked it. It was just a little brutal, I think. But, I don't know. I have to read more from this author before I form a proper opinion on his works. Next, I read Small Things Like These by Keegan. I read it because it was popular. And it was really good, actually. I really liked it. Then I read 3 books by Nesbø, who is a Norwegian author, and he writes detective thrillers, mostly. I read these in a reading vlog for the first video and currently only video in a series called, I don't remember what I called it, but it focuses on Scandinavian literature because I am Scandinavian and I want to make an effort to read more books in particularly Norwegian and Swedish because I am Norwegian and Swedish, and historically I have not read a lot of books in these languages, and so I'm trying to make an effort to read more, and this series is part of that effort. Again, they're in a reading vlog. I'll leave the link both on the screen and in the description. I had a really good time with these books. They were really good. Then I read a book that I don't have a physical copy of, but that I kind of really do want a physical copy of. It's called Bones by Cale Spear. I mentioned this book in a wrap-up, so again, if you want to hear more about that book, then check the description for the link to all of the videos from last year. Then I read The Return of the King, the last book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which, if you do not know, I love the Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien's work so far, which it is only the Lord of the Rings that I've read so far. I have The Hobbit and I have The Silmarillion, and I plan on reading both this year. And we'll see how it goes. Then I read I Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is translated from, is it translated from French? I think she's Belgian. Yeah. Oh, it might have been from Flemish then. And this is another book that I've seen a lot online, but that actually one of you guys recommended to me, and it was the first time I heard of it, and I saw it in a bookstore. I picked it up, I read it. It's not very long, and it was kind of a little bit mind-blowing, and I totally understand why this is one of these books that is picking up hype again. It's another one of these books that, you know, they never go out of relevancy. It's kind of crazy. Then I read a book that I actually don't have any memory of talking about. None of This Is True by, is it Lisa Jewell? None of This Is True. I buddy read this with my best friend, and the only reason I don't have a physical copy of it is because I don't like the way the paperback looks. But I think the book is really good, and I'm considering just getting it in hardcover because I really want it for my collection. I really enjoyed it. It was written in a very engaging way, and it was kind of twisty and creepy and weird, but like not in the way I expected it to be. And it just felt very real, kind of like quite believable, and it creeped me out a little bit in its like the creepiness in the normalcy. I don't know how to explain it. It was a very normal story that had a lot of creepiness in the normalcy. It was weird, but like in a good way, and I enjoyed it, and I need a physical copy for my library. My physical collection. I call my physical collection my library. It's not nearly enough books to be a library, but you know. I really enjoyed None of This Is True. She's written a lot of books, and like some of them are like they're amazing, and then some of them people say this is not her best work. So I don't really know where to go from here with this author because I want to read more of her stuff because I really like None of This Is True. But I'm so worried that I'm gonna end up reading something I don't like, which I know is stupid because that's like pretty normal for readers to end up reading something you don't like, but I'm on such a good reading streak. I'm enjoying almost everything I'm reading a lot, so I just really don't want to be bummed out. I would love to read some more Lisa Jewell. I'm just gonna try and like, I need to be more of a risk taker, I guess, when it comes to this author. Okay, moving on. Next, I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which was way overdue. I've had this book for, I don't know, I've had it since like 2018 or something, and I hadn't read it yet. And I finally got to it last year, and I had a good time with it. It was good. It was not like 5 stars for me, because it did get kind of boring in places. But I love Erin Morgenstern's writing. Her writing is exceptional. It is so good. That was like my highlight from that book, was her writing style. Also don't know if I talked about this book in any video, but yeah. The Night Circus. Really good. And I'm glad I finally got to it. Then I read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which was depressing. I did not love this book. In fact, I thought it was quite boring. That doesn't mean that I don't see the importance of it. I get it. I really get it. I understand why this is one of these kind of like dystopian books that is again also like, oh, I don't think this one ever died down to be kind of resurrected again. This has constantly been one of these books it's being present. I think I've always, more or less always known about it. And then I decided to read it last year. I think I read it in March. And did I read this much in the beginning of the year last year? I mean, okay, I get it. Again, it's one of these books that everyone should read and that should scare us, but it was also quite boring. I was quite bored through this. I had to fight my way through quite a few pages. At the same time, I realized this is not a book that's made to be like a page turner. It's made to be a wake-up call. It's made to be discussed, and that's what's important. And so I'm glad that I've read this. I haven't seen the show yet, and I don't know if I can bring myself to, because this thing was painful. It was not a good time, and it made me feel kind of sick. And I don't know, I get it. You know, I do get it. A Handmaid's Tale, which depressed me quite a bit, and which I'm sure it was supposed to. Then we get to the 6 books that I read for Battle of the Booktubers, which is a competition that Danny Dabbles set up and organized and hosted and invited a bunch of us to participate in. It was basically a competition on which booktubers were best at recommending books. And so we were divided into groups of 4, and we anonymously recommended 2 books to each of our competitors within that small group. And so I was given 6 recommendations. I think that's more or less around the time where after that I kind of disappeared from BookTube for 8 months. So I ended up reading 6 books, 2 books per vlog. And so there are 3 vlogs for this competition of me reading 2 in each. The first vlog, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea and Jade City. Oh no, the neighbor's dog is sad. The neighbor has gone to the store or something, and their dog is outside, and it's sad that it's not inside. So if you hear wailing, that's what it is. The House in the Cerulean Sea and Jade City. These books were the choice from one of my competitors for me to read. Then I was given the recommendations Strange the Dreamer and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and that was the second video that I made for that competition. And then in the last video of that competition, I read Yellowface and The Warm Hands of Ghosts. So these were the... Wait. Oh my god, what a mess. Okay. These were the 6 books that I read in those 3 vlogs. I talk about my thoughts and opinions on these books in those videos, so I'm not going to get into it here. Needless to say, I had a pretty good time with all of these books. They were good. And although I did not win Battle of the Booktubers, I got some real great reading out of it. So thanks again, Danny, for Battle of the Booktubers. That was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that it happened before I fell into my slump, because that would have been tough otherwise. Okay. Now we're getting into what remains of my reading for 2024, the books that I have not talked about on this channel yet. So those will not be repeats. Up until this point, I was making videos still, so I was able to keep you updated, but these are fresh. So let's get into it. The first one I read. This is actually a book that I'm working on a video, and I started working on it when I read this book. And I'm only halfway with making that video. So it's still coming. It's just wildly delayed. Folk med ångest by Fredrik Backman. This is the Swedish and original version of Anxious People. So this is the Swedish copy. For those of you who have read the book, do you see all the little... Isn't it funny? The back has like... Yeah, those of you who have read it will know. It's fun, isn't it? So, Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. I chose to read the Swedish version because, again, as a half Swede, half Norwegian who has not been reading a lot of Norwegian or Swedish books, I want to make an effort to read more in my native languages. And Fredrik Backman is probably one of the most famous Swedish contemporary authors, and I just had to get on that. I never read any of his books, and I had to get on the hype train. So this was my first meeting with Fredrik Backman's work, and I really enjoyed it. I loved this book. It was so fun and so deep at the same time, and I talk more about it in like recordings for that particular vlog, and so you'll get more of my thoughts on this book from when I was actually reading it when I finally finished that video. But that's for the future. as for now, what you need to know is that this is a phenomenal book, and I highly recommend it to everyone. It is so good, so fun, so thought-provoking, and yet so light, and it was just such a well-balanced piece of work. It's one of these books that make me feel like the author was meant to be a writer, you know? Like it's one of these works, and I love this book so much. So good. Highly recommend Anxious People. After I read Anxious People, I took a 180. I think we're heading into like autumn now. And so I read Steve Kavanaugh's Kill for Me, Kill for You, which is a standalone. Okay, well, all of his books can be read as standalone, but like the other two books that I've read from him are in the Eddie Flynn series, so like it follows the same main character in all of them. And although you don't have to read them in order, you kind of meet characters you've already met before throughout those books. This one stands completely on its own. There's not any familiar characters or anything, and it was so good. It tells the story of two people separately, and you're trying to figure out the whole time why on earth you're getting both of these stories. It's so confusing in the beginning. I'm like, why am I reading two separate stories? They must be tied somehow. And then I'm just kind of like constantly trying to work out how. It was so good. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I enjoyed getting back into Steve Kavanaugh's books. I have Twisted on my shelf, and I plan on reading it this year. I think I might wait till the autumn, but I'm really eager to read more from this author because I've loved 13. 13 is one of my favorite books ever. I read 50/50 by him afterwards. I didn't love it as much. It was good, but I didn't love it as much. Now I read this, and I thought it was really, really good. Definitely kind of, I don't know if graphic is the right word, but definitely like up there. I didn't like reading this before I was going to sleep, for example. I didn't want to do that. And so I just kind of, you know, read only this during the daytime. It's one of these books. Definitely recommend this to those of you who like thrillers and who aren't like afraid of some gory details and, you know, being scared by a book. This was really good. It was still autumn, and so I felt like picking up another autumn read. This is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. I've seen the film for this a few times. It's not my favorite. I don't really like that storyline. Or it's not that I don't like it, it's just not one of my favorites. Decided to give the book a try, and again, not really one of my favorites. I don't love this. I don't remember if I said that I liked the book or the film more. I think I like the book more, actually, which is, when it comes to Agatha Christie, it's quite 50-50 because I've watched those films for such a long time. I've seen so many of them. I think almost all of them, if not all of them, more than once. And I started reading the books afterwards, already knowing the stories. So I can never really like fully decide how much I like these books. But this one, I think I liked this more than I liked the film. It was appropriate for the season, and I wanted to give it a try. So Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. Then I took a chance. I basically took this chance because I love the cover. It is a beautiful cover. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. It's stunning. It's really, really pretty, but it's bad. Or like, everything about this book was okay. Nothing was exceptional. Nothing stood out. It felt very basic. There was nothing standing out about the writing or the characters. Everything was just very spiceless. It was bland. This was very bland, which is ironic because of the title. Definitely feels like a debut. Not that all debuts at all are like this, but it's like, if you're first starting out and you're still learning, this is kind of what I expect. It feels very safe, not very inventive, and it gave me nothing. I remember saying it was very mid, very okay, but I had a good time with it, and I think it's because I'd been reading such heavy books that I needed something like this to just kind of break the flow, and so it did that very well. I even said that next time I need a break from heavy books, I'll pick up the sequel. Like, I liked it enough that I would want to read more. The more distance I've put between myself and the reading of this book, the less I think I'm actually going to. I think I'm going to unhaul this book, and I don't think I'm going to read any more of the books, even though I'm curious as to whether the books get better. I don't know. I feel like this had potential and it didn't live up to it, and I was kind of disappointed, but also not fully surprised because romances and thrillers, it's very hit or miss with me. For some reason, those particular genres are just so hit and miss. I don't know why those two genres are like that for me, but I think it's because you have such expectations that just kind of inherently come with the genre, and when you feel like the author doesn't deliver on those, it's a letdown. But yeah, this was okay in every way. I think I read it at the right time, and I liked it as much as I could possibly have liked it, and even considered reading more of the books. I don't want to haul it because it's so pretty, but I don't see myself ever picking it up again, and I kind of don't want it. For the content, I don't really want it on my shelf. I don't know what to do with this one, actually. This was what I needed at the time. After reading some heavy books, this kind of felt like a palate cleanser. So for that, I really liked it. But in and of itself, it was nothing exceptional. Then I finally finished The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. For those of you who have watched my last videos before I disappeared for 8 months, you'll know that I was reading this in a read with me video when I was camping in the summer, and I got like a third of the way through, and then I put it down and I didn't pick it up again until towards the end of the year because I didn't want to leave this book unfinished. And I really liked it. As I mentioned, I read The Night Circus by this author earlier in the year, and I was really happy to get to her other book before the end of the year too. This book is really whimsical. It is beautifully written. Again, her strongest point, I think, is the way she writes. Her writing style is fantastic. It is so whimsical and beautiful and magical and just poetry, basically. It did get confusing sometimes. I didn't really know what I was reading sometimes, and I felt a little lost here and there, but I didn't really care. I had a much more difficult time keeping up with this one than I did The Night Circus. So in this sense, it felt like a more complex story, but it felt like it was worth it. I don't know if I like The Night Circus or The Starless Sea better now. At this point, they're more or less even in my head. They're both beautifully written, they're both really interesting and fun stories, but they're both really, like, there's a depth and just a beauty to these stories that sets them apart, and I want to reread this. And I want to read it in one go, or like not with like months in between. I'm not going to reread these anytime soon, but when she comes out with a new book, if she comes out with more books, I want to reread these ones and then read her newest book. I think that would be nice. It was such an interesting story, and so whimsical and so strange. I don't know, it was a very intricate story, and definitely not the easiest to tell. I think she did a good job, but at the same time, I was left confused several times. So I really like Erin Morgenstern's writing though, and I cannot wait to read anything else that she writes. I hope she writes more because she is a fantastic writer. Really just has to keep doing it because her writing is just so good. It's too good to not be writing more. So I hope she puts out more books, and I will definitely be picking up whatever comes next. Last two. I decided to give Heartstopper a try. I know that this is very popular and well loved, and so I wanted to give it a try. And I like the story. I think it's sweet. I just don't think graphic novels are my thing. I don't know why I have an easier time with manga than I do with graphic novels. It just feels so jumpy. I don't know. Maybe it's just something I have to get used to, because I don't read a lot of graphic novels. I don't read a lot of manga either. But for some reason, I feel like with manga, the leaps aren't as big as they feel here between the frames. It doesn't feel like the leaps are as, not that the leaps here are big, but they feel smaller in at least some of the manga that I've been reading. And I think that's what I'm struggling with. Like, I just feel like I'm skipping so much of the story because I don't get everything I want to have. I feel like I'm missing something. When I read graphic novels, I don't feel like I get all of the details that I want, but I have decided that I want to see the show because it's really sweet. It's so sweet and wholesome. I totally understand why this is so well loved and so hyped. And it was refreshing to read another format, even if, you know, it's not something that I have the easiest time with, but it was light and it was sweet and it was cute, and I'm excited to see the show. I feel like the story must really come alive. I mean, I know that it's well done. People love the show, and I'm excited to give it a try. And the last book that I read last year, I read In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, and this was incredible. It is written so well, and the story in itself was structured in a very satisfying way. It didn't feel like things were happening for the sake of the plot. It felt like this could actually have been something that happened to real people. I believed this story. It felt authentic, it felt real, and it had a beauty that was kind of intertwined with the tragedy. It was so good. So good. I really enjoyed this book. I hope that Alice Wynne writes more, because her writing was so good. Even though this is a World War I story, and obviously any World War I story is going to have a heaviness and gravity to it that is you know, you need to be in the right mindset. It's not for everyone, and just you have to kind of know a little bit of what you're expecting in order to kind of digest the story, because it is brutal, really brutal, and I was constantly reminded of how very real World War I was, and the people that were fighting it and who died in it was, and it was so sad but so good at the same time. If you haven't read it yet, get to it, particularly if you like historical fiction, particularly if you like World War I stories. What are you waiting for? Truly, just get to it. Totally deserves the hype, and so worth the read. So, In Memoriam was the way I finished off 2024. Just such a great way to end the year. Okay, so now you know everything I read last year. Again, the majority of these I read while I was still making videos. I got a little skeptical about a couple, if I'd actually talked about them, but I know that I talked about most of these anyway in videos from last year. And so again, the playlist is in the description if you want to browse through and see and hear any of my thoughts or opinions about any of the books that I read. But I think even though I ended up in some slumpy spaces towards the end of the year, I do think that I had a good reading year. I got to some books that I'd been putting off for no reason whatsoever, other than I have a lot of unread books. So I got to some books that I'd been wanting to read for a very long time. I got to some newer books that I was really excited about. I was really happy to finally get to some Scandinavian books. I enjoyed almost everything that I read. I had a good reading year, even though there weren't all that many books involved. At least the books that were involved were mostly really good. I can wholeheartedly recommend most of these to you guys, even though you've probably read them, because I'm always so behind trends and what's popular. I hope that you guys had a good reading year last year. I hope that you guys got to some books that you've been wanting to get to. I hope that you enjoyed at least the majority of the books you read, found some new favorites, and just all around are satisfied with how last year's reading went. So yeah, that's it for me this time around. If you have any thoughts or opinions on any of the books that I've mentioned in this video, also the ones that I've already made videos about, then do feel free to share them in the comments. That's where I'll see you, and let me know. And with that, I am finished for this video. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've had a really good day. I hope the book you're reading is a really good one, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!